$14.2 trillion in the hole and counting. We're adding trillions to that number every year forward as far as the eye can see. In fact, we'll be at $21 trillion in debt by 2021. So who's going to pay for all this? It ain't going to be the 47% of Americans who pay 0 or less federal income tax, households that is. At the end of the day, it's you and me picking up the tab for all the spending. Maybe that's why it's so infuriating when you hear that big corporations with close ties to the White House aren't paying their fair share. Companies like GE, Google, Boeing. Here to break all this down is Tim Carney, senior political columnist for the Washington Examiner. You know, Tim, the big one, the Mac Daddy of them all right now seems to be GE, making $14.2 billion, actually getting a tax credit at the end of the year at 2010. Break it down. Why does Google pay 20%? Why does Boeing pay little or no tax whatsoever and get government contracts on top of it? Help us out.
Well, first of all, I want to say, I'm not going to say who's paying their fair share or not. Nobody has said that GE did not follow the law or that Boeing did not follow the law. What we see when these giant, very profitable corporations are paying no taxes, we see a broken tax code. And we see that GE goes ahead and hires nearly 1,000 people to work in their tax division because, you know what, that's a profitable thing. They bring down their taxes. That's one of the most profitable sections of their whole company, I'm sure. And that's a problem with the tax code when a business needs to hire or can profit from hiring that many. GE, though, one example, and this is a sign that I think Obama's not serious about tax reform, they got over $100 million in green tax credits. So that's for, you know, building a windmill, solar panel factory or building windmills. So that's a lot of the tax credits that General Electric gets, goes from sort of dancing to the tune that the government is calling. You get a tax break if you do that.
And how does a small business compete with a big monster like GE who's paying no taxes? Meanwhile, small business probably pays 35%.
Yeah, well, you can hire a gigantic tax division, I guess, if you're a small business. Maybe you can afford 975 people like GE can. Obviously, a small business can't do that, and this is one reason why when government gets bigger and when the tax code gets more complex, the big guys actually do better. The media will always say, oh, it's big government versus big business, and if you want to slash government, well, you're just doing the bidding of Wall Street and big business.
Tell us, Tim, before we move on, but tell us, Jeff Immelt, the CEO of General Electric. He's now been tapped as Obama's job czar. Does that seem fair to you?
Well, the thing about Immelt is that he has always been on the same page as Obama. It's fitting, whether it's green subsidies, whether it's even embryonic stem cells, whether it's high-speed rail, the TARP, healthcare reform, they've always been on the same page. But no, I don't think there should be a job czar, but if it is, picking a guy like this who is just gaming government, to me that shows what Obama thinks the private sector is for, not sort of creating wealth to match demand, but trying to profit off of whatever the government is telling them what to do. So I find it fitting more than fair.
Tim Carney from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Corporations aren't paying, and the White House wants us to pay, but who really should be paying? Here to discuss the solution to this question, the question Neil Bortz, who should be paying? Neil, what do you look? You're a fair tax guy. Explain to us what would happen to a GE or a Boeing or a Goldman Sachs, for that matter, under a fair tax.
Well, remember, all taxes, as with some other things, roll downhill. The final analysis, Eric, the only entity, the only people who pay taxes in this country at all are individual consumers. All business taxes, all corporate taxes, they all end up reflected in the price of whatever item or service that business is providing.
So go ahead. Take it to the next step.
Your landlord.
Go ahead. Why? Well, and let's point this out. I should have written that a little bit better. A fair tax basically taxes consumption, not income. So if you go ahead and buy a pack of cigarettes, a loaf of bread, a six-pack of beer, you're taxed on that, but you're not taxed when you get your paycheck, right, Neil?
Well, exactly so. If you live in a state without an income tax, you make $2,000 a week. Every 2 weeks, you get a check for $4,000. Look, it's a consumption tax. Ask the people out there, would you rather pay 25% of everything you earn or 23% of everything you spend? And the details, Eric, you know the details. They're available at fairtax.org, and it would take us more time than we have to explain it all. But it gets rid of all personal income taxes, all payroll taxes, all corporate and business income taxes, and it just replaces them with an inclusive sales tax at the national level. The price of consumer goods do not go up because the embedded tax comes out. The fair tax goes in.
But Neil, and point this out. So it levels the playing field. So big corporations with, as Tim Carney pointed out, with full divisions of tax lawyers won't have an advantage against the small businessman who wants to compete.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No advantage at all. A small businessman can't go to K Street in Washington and pay $300,000 to a lobbyist to try to get them a special tax break in Washington, D.C. The small businessmen who provide most of the jobs in our economy, they're working at a huge disadvantage, while companies like GE say, hey, how about a couple of $1 billion so we can build a jet engine the military doesn't want?
Hey, Neil, I got to do this before I let you go. I have to ask you, a lot of people say the problem with a fair tax or a flat tax, any of these sort of consumption taxes, VAT tax, is that it creates a black market for goods. In other words, you can avoid a tax by doing barter trading.
Okay, real quick. You can avoid income tax as a solo act. If you want to avoid the fair tax, it takes two for that dance, and the penalties are harsh. Remember, 86% of all consumer purchases of services and goods come from major corporations, major businesses, who are not going to take that chance breaking the law.
All right, Neil Boortz, say thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Eric.
All right, we want to hear from you. Does Obama really suck this much at math? Or is he just trying to kiss up and win some points with his liberal base? Go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Eric Bolling, or find me on Twitter, twitter.com/Eric Bolling. Let me know what you think. Your comments could end up right here on the air. Up next, there's new evidence the State Department has on Iran, plus a U.S. lawmaker's wake-up call to Washington about, get this, the Muslim Brotherhood. Stick around. We'll be right back.